Welcome to Reread. Today I'm going to cover two short stories. One is a comic book from the Star Wars Adventure Comic Book Digest series, Han Solo and the Hollow Moon of Khorya. I remember doing my first review of this. I kind of reviewed all the way through them. And this one is someone called Solima hires, or Solima hires Han Solo to go retrieve some stuff. Han Solo owes him a debt. And so Han Solo has to go with his friend Bilal, who was with Shrike. You know, he and Shrike used to, he used to pickpocket people with Bilal when they were kids under Shrike. Now, I don't believe A.C. Crispin had Bilal in her book. She didn't have to. Maybe they just separated ways. But later on, Bilal says, when you left us for the Academy, we were proud, Solo. Were you still with Shrike then? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what they're implying. Obviously, that would be a contradiction. But maybe they remained friends after Han left. And Bilal had to have left first because he's not in A.C. Crispin's books, if I remember right. And so maybe, because Han says, well, I got you into the Academy. You just never showed up. So they were friends once, and then they're not anymore because Bilal only looks out for himself. And the whole time he's betraying Han. You know, when they get captured by the Empire, they're about to get tortured, Bilal flips, right? But Bilal is mad at Han because he has everything, and Chewbacca's not in this. I mean, Chewbacca is, but he and Chewbacca have an argument, and so Chewbacca leaves him to become a gladiator for this Hollow Moon planet, you know, and he's fighting all these beasts, which is really cool. But at the same time, Chewie would never leave Han. He'd be mad at him and wouldn't talk to him. But they wouldn't be Splitsville, right? If you have a life debt, you're going to stay with him. So, and why did they split? Because Chewbacca thinks Han is too reckless. That's Han Solo. I don't know why that would be a thing you would just split on. So that was a little hard to swallow too. The whole backstory with Bilal and Han was a little iffy. Like I said, it borderlines on contradiction, and you could call it a contradiction from what's already been established. But it could be that they somehow remain friends later on in life, and maybe Han did try to get him into the Academy when he went later, you know, to the Academy. Maybe so, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, the story is meh. It's meh. It's okay. It wasn't as good as I remembered. I liked a lot of these little adventure digests. I thought they were a lot of fun. But just, I guess, the backstory with Bilal basically, you know, threw me off a little bit and kind of soured me on the whole story. At the end, you know, they make it out. They trick Solima and send him over to the Empire in an escape pod. And as they make it away, the Imperial captain lets Han Solo get away. He's like, I'm sure we'll see him again. Okay, whatever. And then Bilal's like, okay, now it's the three of us forever. We're all friends. What are we going to do now? And Bilal's betrayed him so many times at this point that Han's not going to trust him. And the next scene is him being stranded on the planet of Hoojeeps. He's like, Hoojeeps? Han, no, not Hoojeeps. And he flies. A Marvel joke. I get it. I laughed. I thought it was funny. I'd forgotten about that. They leaves him on the planet. It's fine. The Hoojeeps are mentioned again outside of the old Marvel comic books. Is funny too. But overall, probably not that good of a story. Now, one that was a very good story was from the Star Wars Adventure Journal number 4. It's called Tinian on Trial. This is by Kathy Tyers. You guys know I already love Kathy Tyers. Basically, the Empire takes over her family, her factory, her family's factory, and Tinian is trying to smuggle out a transmitter, a field transmitter, It's a what's it called? A prototype, whatever. It's supposed to be really good. And I think the Empire's just wanting to get all these prototype stuff that they're making and control it for the Empire. And she smuggles away, hides under the guise of musicians, and breaks up the transmitter into the equipment, like the keyboard and the horns and stuff. And they're like, the musicians tell her that no one knows music, so just break it apart and we'll just say it's part of our keyboard, part of our, you know, musical instruments. And that's how they smuggle it off planet. And of course, this is springboarding into other adventures you can have with this band. You know, as they're traveling the galaxy, what can they do? And it was enjoyable. I loved it. But I noticed something. Kathy Tyers does a lot of things that involve music. I guess she loves music. And there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, I love her, you know, insight into storytelling. You know, what she tells something different, something we haven't heard of before. And it's obvious she wanted to get some kind of music going on, and because this Tinian has to sing, has to go on stage and sing. And if you're out in the open, right on stage, in a dress and everything, the stormtroopers don't think that's you. So they gave her a glance and then looked on. They were looking for her, but they didn't think that was her because she's hiding out in the obvious, right? She wouldn't be on the spotlight on stage, which is smart. And then it says Tinian was like, they didn't stop and stare at me. I guess I'm not that pretty. You're trying to run from the Empire. Anyway, she says that in the book, in the short story. And this is a big short. This thing's like 35 pages. It's a pretty hefty short story. But she makes interesting characters. She makes an interesting idea of this group, you know, hidden as musicians, kind of going from place to place, trying to sell the rebels, prototype whatever from Tinian's, you know, maybe she has a locker or storage room, a bunch of other prototype stuff that she can get to the rebellion's hands for a price. And it has all these ideas, and it talks about each one of the band members and gives you all the stuff after the story. Very creative, very imaginative, and I'm sure she didn't come up with, no, I'm sure she came up with a backstory probably for everyone, not the numbers and everything for role-playing. But either way, I just find her stories fascinating, that they're so different. She moves in a different way to tell a story. It's not just your average person on the run against the Empire. And this is like maybe the third time I've noticed that she's brought music or musicians into some of her short stories. So maybe she's a music lover and says, hey, we need more music in the EU. Because she talks about how she sings this song. You know, I can't remember the lyrics of the song, but she sings all the way with you, all the way to the cosmos with you, or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But I was like, oh, that's nice. I like hearing about this. So it is enjoyable. Now, is this a must read? Do you have to track down this adventure journal for it? No, but it was a fun read. And that's really what matters. All right, folks. See you next time.